paranormal. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. Tonight, you will hear from the people who live and work within these highly active locations, all in the efforts to discover America's most haunted. With your host, ghost hunter and author, Dan Terry.
Good evening, boys and ghouls. I am Dan Terry, your ghost host with the most haunted. You're going to be hearing some issues because I got a little bit of a chest congestion going on here and my voice don't quite sound right, but that's okay because my guest promises she can talk for me. So that's awesome. Oh, God, this guest, I've done at least one actual witch before, a number of demonologists and all of that, but this one I'm excited about because she's from Virginia, which is, the borderline to Virginia is 7 miles away from the house here. And she's an Appalachian witch, which I have discovered through my research is completely different from the Midwestern witches, the Wiccans. She named off some I'd never even heard of, but there are different types. And Misty Conner, what she does is give a voice to the dead as she deciphers and relays personal messages from your dearly departed or your spirit guides to help you with your life. She's a mystic from the mountains. That was her words, but I loved it. In Virginia, she's been the guest of conventions across the country. She's appeared in various news articles and documentary films. She's advised successful and wealthy businesses on what they should be doing. And she's assisted with missing persons cases with the police, I guess, and comforted the distraught. She and her sister, and they work together. They're both a direct lineage of magic women, medicine women, whatever term you want to use, witches. But they both appeared on Coast to Coast AM. They've appeared on the documentary Season of the Witch, which is available. When you get done here, go check it out. It's on Tubi, which is free, and Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it's free on Amazon Prime or not, but it might be worth it to check it out. And here is Misty Conner. There we go.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Oh, I'm glad you decided to come on because this is intriguing. I've seen so much about the witches. I hope that term doesn't offend you, but that's I got that from you. Now me, I got the Sea Witch shirt. Wait, where is it? Sea Witch shirt on right here. But I've heard so much about and witches is one term. Healing women, I've heard. Magic women. I've heard granny magic lately. I think it was on your side. I've found it on a couple of other books. In fact, you have a book out now about Appalachian Conjuring and granny women magic.
Yes.
All right. You've been doing this, most of your life, I guess, right?
Actually, that's kind of funny. For the public, we've been doing this since me and my sister, since about 2000. I don't want to you hate dropping numbers, but it's been over a decade. We're doing it for the public. Before that, you try to keep it very close to the heart, especially since we're in the Bible Belt. And you should know that moving down to North Carolina, things are different. You will find,
yes.
You will find 100 churches before you find like a gas station. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Oh, they're all over out here.
They
and
are.
Each one has 20 people in it.
Yes, they do. And they do. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's also a thing that if you're somebody like myself, the first thing we hear, we want to keep that to ourselves because yes, the term witch, you talked to me briefly before, and I think that's beautiful because people need to understand some people don't like using that term still to this day, because you're not in the South. You're not in the Bible Belt. Not too long ago, we had pastors that were going on witch hunts, and that was very close. It was in Tennessee, and they were doing things like that. You don't understand the scrutiny. Now, how do I put this nicely? The young evolution of witches, they think it's cool, just like anything, because there's been so many people before them that has had to be, the martyr for them, that they don't understand. So there's a lot of respect in the craft in my field, because like you were saying, the granny women. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Most of them women, if they heard the term witch, we would be in church and be anointed. If I could tell you how many times I was anointed. Because that's not what they do. When we wrote our first book, there was a couple other ladies, and it was the 3 Appalachian Witches. You can actually look that up also. It tells our story and our history. And I never forget, it was at Christmas and we were finishing up the book, and we said, Daddy, what do you want to say about this? Like, is there something else you want to add to it? Because we had put everything from, if you know anything about the mountains, the music is really a big part of it. That's also got some beautiful, just magic in it. Their food, everything, right? So we were like, Daddy, do you want to put anything else? And he turned around and he was like, well, we would have never called ourselves witches. We would have been healers, because if we had, we would have been tarred and feathered. We would have been hung. And we were like, whoa, wait a minute. Up until that point, it's a very closed lip in the mountains if you are truly from a line like that. Okay. The heritage is a little bit different. We traveled with a lady who was an Appalachian witch, and she was female to female to female, where our lineage, and a lot of them in the hollers, are female, male, female, male. So when people say, can women be witches and stuff and things, or healers or conjurers? Yes. And so can men. They say, can men? I'm sorry. Yes, very much so, and because in our lines, that's how it passed down. So then my dad comes out with this amazing story of how we are the coolest thing in the world, and that is wart witches. If anybody's ever heard of that, a wart witch is I saw that look on your face, Dan.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
It is something that we have in the mountains. We have water witches, and that is somebody who would help us find our wells.
Okay.
Dowsing rods. I don't know if you know anything about finding a well in the mountains. Like, a lot of times when people are from town, they don't understand this, but having a working well was really, really big. So they had dowsing rods. And I remember as a kid, a dowsing rod wasn't what you think it is today. It was actually like a Y-shaped branch. And if you could find one, it was amazing. And they would be like, kids, go out there and play. Find some water or something like that. And we would take those around and try to find. But the cool thing is if you've ever seen a well digger's truck out in the Appalachian Mountains, you will find some dowsing rods, because he's like, the last thing you want to do is dig so far and never find water. They call people in to help them with this. So this is a wart witch. She is one that apparently we had an outbreak of warts. I have no idea. And what you would do, she would do different things to take the warts away. Now, this is the cool part, because we had already known this lineage. We knew that we were different. How we got picked out to do psychic things, because being a witch is different than being psychic and medium. So people get that kind of, I've talked to witches who do know mediumship, and that's completely fine, But he said that my grandmother, right, was supposed to learn from her uncle, and that they had taken the warts away from my dad's sister, and he had watched it. By the time they drove home from the uncle's house, the warts were gone. There's numerous different ways. What makes an Appalachian witch amazing is because every holler is different. Because we were so isolated out here. We do not care about your color, creed, because everybody who was less than was put in these mountains. You got to think about it. It wasn't the greatest land. So then we come up here. And we have these ladies who were granny witches, which we will talk about in a minute. But they thought we were going to die. They were like, no, these people ain't going to flourish. These people aren't going to live. And what they didn't know is when Pangea was around, right? These mountains were also part of Africa. They were also part of Europe. And when it split, so when people would come here, they would be like, that looks like my home. I'm going to go live up here. So we have all different nationalities that are in these mountains. We don't care what your color, creed, or anything was. We needed to survive. This was some of the hardest terrain, the hardest times that they had. So if somebody knew how to take care of livestock, but somebody else knew how to take care of babies, they would swip and swap. So it depends on your holler that you were around of how your magic grew or your healing abilities. There are some other ladies that are in the mountains or gentlemen that are truly witches that people, not that I'm not a true witch, I am on the healing side, right? I am on the helping people. But if they thought it was a witch and it was a truly bad witch, and that was the term they would use, they would have certain distinct things. Like they would be able to get milk out of a cow when there wasn't a cow there. They would be able to like clobber your milk, your livestock, your things like that. If they could see, these were all indicators that this was a bad witch and you couldn't work with her. Now, I don't know. These are all folklore. And the cool thing about ours is if you don't keep the word of mouth going, because a lot of us didn't know how to read and write. My grandmother didn't know how to read and write. So she would have to tell you these things and you would have to watch her do these things. So some of our lineage is actually getting washed away because as people get older, they're not keeping that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
But I said wart witches, water witches, storm splitters. We have those, which is so cool. I've actually done that myself. And you actually you just pray. Pretty much we pray to whoever we believe in to split the clouds so there wouldn't be bad weather. And that's happened before. That's pretty cool. And then the last one is our fire talkers. And those are a little bit different. I use a lot of breath work in my works, but they are able to take the burns out of things. If you've burnt yourself really bad, then you talk it out, you whisper it out, you ask the spirits and the guides and guards or whoever you have to take this burn away. This is used a lot. Also, we would cure babies with thrush and they couldn't breathe and colic, and we would kind of use our breath work to bring that back in. So there's so many cool things that we were doing to try to keep our lineage alive in these mountains, and it came into this beautiful magic that we call Appalachian magic. So that's where we're from. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time.
No, you're fine. You know, you were talking about dowsing rods. Back in Missouri, the folks who worked on the underground telephone lines, they would have all this, expensive metal detecting equipment to find it. And yet I would see him out there with two rods walking through until it crossed. And he told me, this is what I use. It works better.
Right. 100%. So when I see people on investigations and stuff, and they got all this equipment, and then you got one person over there and they're just answering these questions left and right, or they can show you where the spirits are. I'm like, get it. That is some old stuff and it's tried and true because, you know, we have ley lines, we have energy sources, we have all of this. And that is something that it can read it very well. Yeah.
I don't ghost hunt without my dowsing rods.
I'm telling you, like I was just talking to somebody recently about a proposal for something new. It was going to be like a new ghost. And like we started off investigating way back when. I mean, when there was no, like a long time ago. And there's so much equipment and so much like gadgets and this and that and other. And I'm sitting there. If they take me on one of those, it's literally like Lassie, who's down the well? I'm like, what did you say? I'm looking at every like little light, even though I'm a psychic medium. I'm like, my sister's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have no idea. I am captivated by these lights. I don't know. But if you give me dowsing rods and you give me pendulums and you give me like a witch's board or like a table tipping, there is something about that connection that I cannot explain. It's like electricity that comes through.
Yes.
I love it.
I have had people that swear it's fake, it's all not right. I give them the rods, they feel that energy.
Yes.
I've had them throw them down and run away. I've had them just amazing. I've had them beg me to sell them mine.
Yeah. Isn't that so crazy? Like, I don't think that people understand the connection that you can really have. If you're just sitting there and you're letting something else be your equipment and you're not, now let me get this. I don't want anybody to go out there and run crazy. But I don't suggest that you let us be like, oh, take all my energy, spirit. But if you can feel that mixing of their energy to yours, there's nothing like it. There's nobody that can sit here and say that the spiritual world is not real. Because that you can feel, you're like, this is all I need. And isn't that what a paranormal experience is? It's your personal experience with something on the other side. That's why we're all here.
But I've had so many that will, and I still work with them, but they'll say, you cannot touch me. I said, go ahead. I bet you ain't got the guts to do that again.
I'm going to tell people a little secret. That this is a little secret, okay? I had a medium tell me one time, this was a long time ago before we truly, we travel around and do seances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a medium tell me, she said, listen, honey, people are so scared to let go and they're so scared of these things, but you've got to look. We are also very scientific driven. Let me ask you, the majority of every investigation, it's you sitting in the dark talking to somebody that isn't there. You kind of feel halfway crazy.
Yes.
You're not going to get this stuff that's on TV. That is edited. I'm going to tell you 100%. But
absolutely,
if you have a spirit that's mean and gnarly and you can feel it, you're going to know. It isn't like, oh, I didn't know. No, you're going to know. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel, I think it's oppressed. It feels like the world is just on your shoulder. And you're all of a sudden just going to feel like, man, I just don't want to be here. Listen to your body. Get the heck away. Nobody says you got to sit there. Nobody says you have to do this. The more you push into that, the more it's going to push back. But she did tell us, she said, honey, if you got a really, really good, strong spirit, the most they can latch on, truly in your body, if you let them, is probably a good 4 to 5 minutes. And then they got to jump because they don't have the energy. We think they have a continuous supply. They do not. But now with me saying that, because there's going to be somebody that says, oh, I had an attachment for 20 years. It's not like that. You can have the remnants. I have had something jump in my body that I didn't know what was going on way back when Misty was a little bitty in this, right? And what it did was it scared the bejeebies out of me. I didn't know it was mediumship at the time. I couldn't stop crying. It was a mother who had had her baby taken away from her. So as soon as she got so close, when she gets so close, it's like they imprint those feelings. That's how a medium works. She gets in that middle and she could tell you what's happening, right? So when that imprints, you have a residual. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say like pew powder, but when something, it's powder, it's dust, it gets on you, you've got to get that off or you're going to have those feelings that linger around longer. Quickest way for me is to get my feet moving. I need to take a walk. I need to walk off that energy. I need my body to start moving so that I can get that off. And I've done that for numerous people. Hollywood has, I guess, made it more than what it is. But if you come to somebody who is somebody who works in energy, they're going to know very quickly how to get that off of you because that's what they do. They shift it back, they move it back. So there's all sorts of things. But on the other side of that, I have been with somebody who was with a spiritual guru, somebody who said they knew everything. They took them in a deep, dark place. Next thing I know, I am having that person brought to me. They're crying. They're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, let's take a walk, honey, and let me help you. Don't go anywhere that you don't have somebody who has been doing this for a while that you trust. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but so many people are just like, I know what I'm doing. And when the rubber hits the road, they don't know what they're doing. And it's scary then. Yeah.
Those are the ones I call the ghost adventurers guide to ghost hunting, or the graduates of the Ghost Adventures show. Because guys, it's what you're seeing is not real. Mm-hmm. I dealt with so many, and I'm going into a little bit different, but the guys who were 20 years old and claimed to be exorcists.
Don't get me started. Oh my gosh. Okay. You have very much so here. Okay. So I have worked in all, I told you, one of the things I do is Appalachian cleansing. So let's talk about that, being an Appalachian witch. Where that comes from, when I told you the story about the wart removing, that is taking off energy that does not suit you. Now I can use superstitions. I can pay you for your warts. I can take it to the crossroads. I can use all kinds of matters, but what essentially is I'm moving that energy. When people come to my table, they want cleansings. I am a Reiki master teacher, but I cleanse them. So all of a sudden, like, I'm looking around and I'm seeing all these demonologists. And I'm like, where did y'all come from? It was like the doors opened and all these people came out and they were like, I am a demonologist. And a demonologist, by terms, is somebody who studies demons. Where'd you get them? Like, you're so against all this. And these people are like, oh, that's the devil. But demons, there's different demons. You ask somebody who works with demons, they're going to very much so know. So how are you studying these things and all of a sudden you're an expert? And I was looking through my feed the other day on Facebook, and it literally, I was watching something that I was like, you've got to be joking me. Like, you really got, and they're like, I saw that demon straight in the eyes. And I'm like, Did you now? Because that's different energy. We're talking about elemental energy. We're talking about energy that's older than us that would just whoop our butts. If you come across it, that's not a spirit, honey. That's not something that will just tell you where Papa put his good, liquor or something. That is something that's holding on, that's been here before us and will be here after us. So I had a person sit on my table, right? And this is what's freaky, and this is what scares me about all these demonologists that pop up and claim they're exorcists and demonologists, and they're all so young, and this and age didn't have anything to do with it, but we're talking about they're saying they've been practicing for 25 years and they're only 19. You know what I'm saying? Those people. But I had somebody who got on my table and she was very peculiar. She was just off, and I could tell. And my sister was like, "Hey, you got somebody over here." So I was like, "Okay, cool." And so this is a story that changed me in the paranormal a little bit too. So I'm talking to her, and she's got like a hat on, sunglasses. I think it's a wig. I'm not for sure. Like, she looks like she was on the witness protection program. But I don't judge people who come to me. I'm like, hey, she may be going through a lot. I'm just going to love her as much as I can, help her as much as I can, and just be here, So I said, honey, we're going to try to take off these energies, this and that and other. And she's like, okay. And I said, my name's Misty. I introduced myself to her. She said, oh, my name's Misty. And I was like, okay, it just was off. Like, if you're trying to BS, a medium or psychic, we know it just rings different, So I was like, okay. So then she lays down on the table and I was like, so how did you meet it? I'm just calming her while I'm getting all my stuff together, all my oils and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, I just happened to stumble across this. And I was like, okay. So we're going down, and I start from the top, and I'm going. And when I hit about right here in my third eye, I see something black laying in her. It's almost like something laid down in her body. And here's her body. It just laid down in there, and I could see the outline. And when that happened, my first reaction is I just talked to him. Like, I need you to talk to me, because so my first thing is sometimes when these happen and the way this was given a cue off, I knew she had been sexually molested when she was young. So my first question, without even asking anything else, I was like, honey, who was this? Was this your dad, your brother? Who did this to you that you have had some sexual trauma? And she said, oh, it was my stepdad. And I said, okay. So I know it's still there. It's still lingering. You can just feel this on people. They have a different vibe. So as we keep going, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Something still seems off, but I'm still going. So I get down to her feet. And what I do at the feet is a road opener. And that literally is pulling all the energy and letting her go on the path that she's meant to do. That's something that witchcraft does. You will hear a lot of people do road openers because they feel like they're stuck and they're not going where they need to do. So I was like, hey, I add this in because I want my people, whoever lays on my table, to get to what they need to get to, in life, their goals. So as soon as I grab onto her foot and I'm just pulling that energy as much as I can, in my third eye, I see her set up and just gollywop me, right? And it happened so much that my eyes like flew open, and I really thought she had hit me. I looked down at her body, and her eyes are like as fast as they can. She's still got her eyes closed, but it's underneath. It's like REM state, right? And I'm looking at, I got this girl's foot, and I'm like looking at my sister, like, help me. Like, I feel like I've been assaulted, but this girl hasn't moved off the table. So I'm like, okay, this is some deep stuff that she's got in her body. So afterwards, I set her up. I'm trying to calm down because to me, I'm like, good Lord, like if you could just imagine somebody coming at you, but then it didn't really happen. So you open your eyes. It's like your third eye. So I talked to her and I said, honey, first of all, do you go to the doctor? Because that's my number one. Okay. Because to me, what was going on in there was, if it's not something seated in her body, it's multiple personalities. This is what this body's given off. And something that was so evil that would come at me, but she knew nothing about it. Like, she was in this REM state that I don't take my customers down that low. It's not hypnosis. It's right. They're just laying there. So something was different. And I said, do you talk to your doctor? Have you ever been diagnosed with like multiple personalities, stuff like that? And she said, no. But I access him like this. She started talking. I said, I'm sorry, him. She said, when I was young and the sexual assault started, that she found some program online. I'm not even sure about this, but what happens is it takes her down in her REM state. And then, sorry, that's my cat's down. We were just talking about cats earlier. Takes her down in REM state. And what happens is she's able to access him. And she said, it's a little boy that takes over. I said, honey, that's not a little boy. And I said, you tell me about these episodes. She's like, well, my boyfriend really got it last night. And I said, well, really got it? And she said, yeah. When I accessed him, with her REM state, that she's able to do now. So when I was on the table and I saw something like it looked like her, but evil and hit me, that's literally what she accesses. So she said he accessed him last night. And then when I came to my part, that he was beaten up on the floor. And I was like, honey, we need to. And she said, I don't know if this is, I am spiritually connected to something because I know things or whatever. I said, well, first of all, we're going to talk about that. That's a whole different subject. I need you to write it down. If this isn't something you could prove, honey, you need to go to the doctor. I was like, because you could be like, this could be psychosis, this could be all this other. But for her to tell me about the REM state after I watched it and after I felt like spiritually I was attacked. So I start talking to her and she's like, so whatever she accessed in this REM state, she brought it into herself. It still has these times that it comes out. To me, she brought on something that was not a spirit. It was something more demonic. And I hate even using that word. So we're going to say lower energy. Okay. Because it's blown up so much that people just want to call everything a demon. Right. Do you know what happened? Like I literally reached out to preachers. I literally reached out to all these other people. They thought I was crazy because I was trying to get her some help. Do you know people in this field that I really respect got in touch with me and was like, who's the girl? I want to crack at her. And I was like, oh my God. Like I got so upset.
Just the term they used.
They were like, I got somebody, we can go da-da-da-da. And I'm thinking, this girl is in such trauma. She called something in and she's still having these episodes where it beats up her boyfriend. She remembers nothing about this. It's either, but the energy and what I saw in her was different than anything I'd ever seen before. And it made me realize this field, I was like, if you have this in your life, you're not going to want to come at it because it's life changing. When somebody interacts with something this big and this deep, it is life changing. And you laugh at everybody else who are the ghost adventures wannabe and everything because they don't know what they're talking about. No. And it really broke my heart. So I talked to her more. I said, and she started talking about other things. Then she started saying, yes, I did know you were here. And the voices kept trying to keep me away and blah, 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 blah. It got really deep. And at the end of it, what people are like, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And the thing is she didn't want it to go anywhere. That was her protection. That was her protection when she was molested. That was her protection when she felt somebody harmed her. If you have something like that, you could try to take it off of them as much as you want and you can rebuke it. But if they're asking for that to come back in and they're asking for that, how are you going to remove it? They're still feeding it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that was really eye-opening for me because I try to help everybody. And that was one on my table that I gave them as much as I could. But I couldn't go any further than that. And then everybody else just disappointed me. I was like, come on, all you do. I mean, people are like, with Reiki, they're like, I'm going to cut some cords. I'm like, honey, cutting cords ain't going to do nothing with this. This is different. This is a different level. And all you Reiki practitioners, do not come after me because I'm a Reiki master teacher too. So if I could, I would have took it, but she wanted it. She was a great host for it because of her mental and what she wanted for it. And that is sad to say, but if she was in the South, we anoint her real good and lay hands.
Okay, Misty, I need you to hold on for just a minute. I got to slide away, do a couple commercials. We'll be right back. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Right back. She said she could talk and boy, she can. And that's awesome, especially tonight. But you know how the show is for the guests to talk. And a 3 weeks ago, you've probably seen an episode where I had to drag everything out of that person. But I love talking with Misty. This one's a lot of fun. And hey, a couple things I want you to check out. So watch this and I'll be right back.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers and how to determine Who may be doing the haunting and why? How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or amazon.com.
All right, friends, there is so much going on. The Unexplained Network, I got to write that to the Unexplained Network is growing crazy. We have so much new shows coming with people who's been doing this for years and years, and people who's been podcasting for years about it. There's so much going on. Go to unxnetwork.com. That's the best way you're going to find it. But I can tell you some of the shows, just a few of the new ones we got coming. James Long. And if you don't know James Long, oh, God, he's been around much longer than I have. UAP Crossfire. We've got Andrea Perrone, who was, I think, involved in the original Conjuring story. And one called the Soul School Surgeon. I have problems with that word. But again, there is so many shows coming on, new ones coming out. My friends at Iron City Paranormal, who I worked with back in Ohio a few years ago when I was there for a lecture, they have their own radio show on the Onyx Network now. There are so many of them. Michelle is back over in Iowa. She's back with her show. There's so much going on. You should be a member, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the show. But let's get back to Misty, because I'm getting tired of talking, and she helps me out. Misty, there's so much to talk about on this.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Getting away now from the idiots. And I'm talking about the demonologist, not this poor girl. With all of that going on, what differs you and your sister and your clan from the Wiccans?
Oh, gosh. That is no, you asked me before, we were talking backstage, and you were like, we nobody wants to offend the witches, right? But
Right.
This is when you will across the board, this is our biggest pet peeve, is the Wiccans. Everybody believes because you're a witch, you're a Wiccan. No.
Mm-hmm.
That is completely opposite. Like, I remember going to Salem, Massachusetts, and they have the Witches Museum, right? And you get to go through time and see all the things and all this stuff. And then at the end, they go, and now all these witches are beautiful Wiccans. And everybody I was with, I was like, BS. That is such BS. I actually find that Wiccans are a little bullyish. Not all of y'all. So before anybody gets in a wad. But I have been bullied quite a bit, because they'll quiz me. They'll be like, how many's in a perfect coven? How do you draw down the moon? And I'll just be like, oh. So you got to be up to date on your stuff. By the way, that's 13, and you draw down the moon by really absorbing the energy. A lot of people do it with baths, things like that. So I will tell y'all the answers to that, but they are very, they have all the, you think of witches' holidays, those come from Wicca. You normally have to study a day and a year to be even considered. You got to have a coven. And I am not that organized. First of all, I'm from the mountains. So let's go back a little bit. I don't know anything about that. That's not what we were ever taught. Newer things, 70s, I think, and 50s and 60s and 70s was a big boom for Wicca. And it is a good jumping off point. It's like what you should do to others comes back to you, threefold, sevenfold, all these different things. And it's kind of like, a lot of anytime somebody puts all their heart into a faith that they have, I love it, whether it's Christianity, because it is a religion based, whether people want to believe it. We do know it's structured like Christianity. And that gives people, sometimes that gives people a safe space to be able to practice. Okay. But when you're in the mountain, and a lot of us don't even speak, write, and they're still speaking with this dialect that people make fun of, and they think we're Hicks and stuff. We're not going to know about your perfect coven. We're not going to know those things. We're going to be the healers. We're going to be the granny women. So no, a lot of us are not Wiccans. In that now, a lot of people are kind of like, the Wiccans are kind of bullying because it is so structured, but it is beautiful. So I do want to say that. Our lineage is granny women. So I will tell you a little bit about that because we talked about that a little bit earlier. Granny women were these women that came into the mountains that made everything work. It was like the grease in all the wheels. I need you to think about this. Who makes you feel the best? Who makes you feel loved? It was your grandma. Whether she was, crocheting a quilt, which by the way, her crochets were knots, which was not magic. So when she was crocheting, she was giving you all the love and protection she could. And then she would do things like, I have been spit on. I have had tobacco rubbed on me. I have had all these things. We have had weird stuff put under our beds and, great things to do with like onions and eggs and all these things. But it was done because like mullein for the chest and stuff. And if you got congestion and stuff, and these things were done because we couldn't afford it. If you've ever seen The War on Poverty and you've seen, like, I think it was Walter Cronkite, and he walked through the Appalachian Mountains and he was like, this is poor. That was us, but we were surviving and we were, making the best we could. So it was all these people doing the best they can. Now, when we use the term granny witch, because I could actually, I'm a descendant of a granny witch, right? When we take that on, people think that they were old. I got to tell y'all, these women weren't always old. What they were was like 13 married to a 20-some-year-old, like my great grandmother, her story, or my sister and I's great grandmother's story is that she ran off with our great granddaddy and they got married. She was 12. And she didn't know they got married, and she had brought a friend with her, and she went and jumped in bed with her friend that night, and he had to come knock on the door and be like, no, honey, we're married now. You gotta come this way. We gotta go that way. She just thought she was having a sleepover. And then she proceeded to have like 9 kids, 12 kids. You see what I'm saying? So these young ladies were having to build these households, raise all these babies while these men went off to work in lumber, timber, all these things. So they would learn these things to keep their families alive. Now, you normally had one granny that people would really, really want, but normally the woman of the household, she would have to do everything. She would have to keep the household going, make sure everybody was safe, all this kind of stuff. But if you had a one granny, right, and she was a traveling granny, she was mostly a midwife, but she had some of the coolest things she would do. Like, and she would come to your house. Most of the time they didn't get paid. If they did, it was either like a chicken or something like that. And then they would help the women have babies. And when they did, they would do things like she would hold a hat of the man who impregnated her. Like most of the time it was her husband. And what that was is to give the strength to her to be able to have the baby. Another thing would be they would put an axe underneath the bed, and they thought that would cut the pain of the woman. Also, it was called quilling. It was snuff. They would go out and like pluck off of a turkey, a chicken or whatever. It was a quill, and they would line that up with snuff, and they would stick it up her nose and make her. So what would happen is she would start coughing and stuff like that, and it would make her go into labor. They would save numerous women like this. Yes. There is a famous story that probably people have seen all over the place, but it literally is that a doctor got called in. By the way, we didn't use them because we couldn't afford them. They would cost so much. So we'd be like, oh, we got to call Granny. She's going to come. She's going to help us. But she was more than that. She really held everything together. But there's a famous story of they did call one in because, they were worried. The mother wasn't delivering. So the husband was like, we got to get somebody in here. And when he shows up, there's 3 grannies standing on the back. And a lot of them did smoke. They would dip. My great grandmother dipped. So she had, but it was snuff. So it was like a powder substance. That's what she put on everything. It was a poultice. We put that thing on everything. But they would also have corncob pipes and stuff and smoke tobacco and stuff. So these ladies are lined up and the doctor's like, it's okay. She's going to be fine. And they said, no, she's going to die. And then he was like, no, she's going to be fine. She's not going to have the baby till in the morning. They were like, bet. So they went out there, they plucked, that's where the quilling came from. They got the quill, they did it, and boom, that baby came out. And they were like, if she hadn't had that done, even though the doctor from town came, they were like sure that she would have died because she was in labor for so long. She couldn't take it anymore. So these are things. Now, this is where the mystic stuff comes in. They did not pass this along because they believed that if they did, they lost their magic. They wouldn't be able to help anybody. So a granny could have an assistant go along with her. But when she decided, and she could teach her, but when she decided that she was going to step away, she knew she wouldn't be able to help anybody anymore. And she would have to carry on the reins. And that's kind of how we pass down our like magic in the mountains, in some hollers. Me personally, I feel that too. If I have one person that I've always said that outside of my lineage that I will show it to. I believe that when I do that, my time is time to retire and I won't have any magic left anymore. So it's kind of crazy. It's like you're like passing it off and but this is somebody that I love dearly. And I've always said that I would teach her if she wants to continue doing this, but it's not of my lineage. And I understand that I will give my magic away. So it's kind of crazy, but it's kind of also really cool to be able to give that to somebody. But my sister, we know the same things and stuff like that. So definitely, and probably will pass it to my son. So that's for the man, woman.
Okay.
If he ever wanted to, but he's like 22. He wants to live his life.
What was your father doing? Was he able to use us?
My father. Okay, so this is where the Bible Belt comes in. We don't talk about this stuff. We don't until we got with a clan of ladies who had the same things and they knew the same things and all the traditions and stuff. We just thought this was normal. We were like, oh, it's normal to go out here with this livestock and do all these things and be their veterinarian. And we don't have no degrees, but we always thought this was normal. And come to find out, it's not. People don't. My sister always says, your best friend normally isn't a goat. So just stuff like that. So they're very farm. Most of them are very church oriented, or they believe certain things are blasphemy. Like, for example, if a woman is pregnant and she watches a scary movie, the baby's marked. And I will never forget when I was pregnant with my son, my dad heard me watching a story that was kind of a spooky story on TV. He got out of the bed, come in there and was like, turn that off now. You're marking that baby. And what that means is it's just like a mark and it can let evil into the baby. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah. And then if you ever have a baby that is born and sometimes they have like birth spots or birth marks and they fade away. If you have anybody from the mountains, they're going to say that baby was marked, which means that things were trying to get into it, or it could be where it passed away before and it's reincarnated. But most of the time, something was trying to get to that baby. Yeah. We have all kinds of crazy stuff. Yes. And also, if you believe that if you have a baby that's born with a cow over it, which means that some of the stuff is still on its face. They believe that baby is either going to be a witch or that baby is going to be so gifted it's going to be able to help people. So I have numerous people coming up to me and they're like, I was born with a cow, over my head and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's so cool. And, they know all this stuff because their grandma was like, oh my gosh, this baby's been marked. We could see a mark from a while away. So other than that, we just make sure that we keep the herbs in the mountains are another big thing. Big Pharma came down. There's certain things like our coal is one of them, but also our timber, our resources, and also our, all of our herbs. There's a lot of herbs that they don't want to tell you about that is good for things of cancer. Like dandelions are amazing properties for cancer and all kinds. Yes. So they would come down. Ginseng is one of our biggest things. They would come down and they'd be like, hey, guess what, guys? Big Pharma was there. And they'd be like, why don't y'all go pick all your ginseng? And then you would turn it in. And some families, I had a lady tell me one time, that's how their family has lived forever. They would go ginsenging and then they would turn it in and get money for it. So it's just, it's so crazy. Some of the things that we take and we cherish so much, then, it was turned into big things for the US and pharmacies and stuff like that.
And the pharmacies also trying to hide that stuff, not even,
Yes,
just destroy it and let
yes,
it
they
go.
do. I gotta tell you, okay, so in my research, right, I get so excited about this, but I found a forestry book. And it was dated, and I still have this because I thought this was so cool. I downloaded the whole thing. But it was in the 1950s, and somebody had been sent down here, a team, and it was the forestry, and they were supposed to come down and categorize everything we had in these mountains, and then they would go to the locals or the tribes or however they had it put in there, and they would say these are the uses for these medicinal uses, and then they would give like the drug name for it, and da 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 da. And they had somebody coming down here categorizing everything in these mountains, and I was like, that is so cool. But then they would talk about what the townspeople said or what the locals were using this for, and I was like, this is so awesome. But it was government use. I don't know how I found it, so I hope there's no government people. And I downloaded it, and I was like, this is amazing. This is our culture. This is our heritage. So I don't think that people realize, like right now, one of the biggest things we have in our our area is AI centers. The large centers are very much so targeting the Appalachian region because it's cheaper, larger areas, but people don't understand it's going to mess with water sources, energy sources, and stuff like that. So it's kind of scary. Like anytime they are like, hey, we got a good idea. You know where we can get something cheap? Let's head down to the mountains.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like putting power lines over schools because the property was cheaper. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It is so crazy. They do that. The more you live in the mountain, we don't trust anybody in these mountains. I don't know. So you are a transplant. So let me ask you, how many people have you ran across that really hate cops? They hate the doctor and they hate the dentist. That is everybody in these mountains.
I don't know. Around where I've been, cops are pretty much well liked.
Really?
Doctors, not so much, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're really, really lucky because it is up here when you get into the places that just really had nobody, and they would be just like, just don't call the cops. We got it. We'll take care of it. We'll dig each other out of ditches and we'll do all kinds of stuff. So they just always feel like that they're let down. Me personally, I have no problem with them. I think that they are amazing and they do amazing jobs. But as a culture, we always are like, oh no, we're going to get in trouble for something. Even if we don't, even if we've never done anything,
Is that a direct response from the moonshining days?
Oh, very much. Yes. Family.
That's really big here too. So,
my gosh. Our family, that was something that I think anybody, right? Anybody who's from the South, that's one of the things they did. But we actually some of our people came from Franklin County and Floyd County in Virginia. And that, if you don't know, there's actually a movie about it. And I think it had like Tom Harding or something like that. And anyway, that is a true story. Our great grandfather, he was known as he ran a lot of shine. And my grandma, when she was leaving him, it's kind of funny. One last thing she did to him was called the cops. And they raided him, and he was so upset. He was like, are you joking?
My father made it with his father during Prohibition.
Yeah. Isn't it so cool? Like, I've always been told like it's so crazy, like how people, and then they'll have the moonshiners on TV and everybody like glamorizes it. But we've had people from runners, which, is the people who would you had to outrun the law pretty good, all the way to the ones who actually brewed it. And I've heard stories of people like my dad, when he was young, they were like, hey, he was at his granddad's and they were like, run boys, run. And then the next thing you know, the mountain's like blowing up because the steel just went, and he's like, we had to duck and all kinds of stuff. So I've heard those stories ever since I was young. So it's always been like, you don't want no cops around as much as you can, even though
Misty, let me go ahead and ask you this one. I know you do a lot of stuff. Do you have anything going on, any place where people can see you or?
Yeah. Gosh, I should have actually looked at my daggone list. So we have some great things coming up in March. We have a couple of different things. We are going up to Ohio. I think it's around Cincinnati. It's a Sacred Journey market. A lot of times they will have us there and we will be doing like seances and stuff. But if you just want to get a reading, you want to come see us, you want to say hi, get a book, cleansing, whatever, we're going to be there. I think that's a 2-day event. We are also going to be doing one with Mama Ruby's. That is a company that does amazing stuff and we love them dearly. It's an Equinox. So it's going to have like the light and dark, and we are doing a seance there. You can come see us there. We are also going to be at Haunted America Conference. That is a longest standing conference, I think, forever.
Is that the one in Alton, Illinois?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's Troy Taylor. I've met him. I've worked with him.
Oh my gosh.
Great guy.
He is amazing. I can't say enough about him. He probably don't like me, but that's all right. Nah. I always tell him that. I'm like, I'm harassing you, buddy. But no, he is awesome. He's been in this game for so long. He has wrote so many books. I can't say such nice things about him. He will vet you too. Like, don't be ashamed of that. Like, if you come around and you're like, hey, let me do this for you, and he'll be like, oh, I'll let you in on a smaller show, we'll see how you go. And then, and you know what, that's just him protecting and know who's here. So go, if anybody's trying out for him, just go shine your little light and he'll see it. He picked us up. We've been doing things with him probably since, I'm gonna say, 2020, 2021.
Okay.
That probably 2021, 2022. We started off in a small thing because we were like, okay, we're gonna show you what we got. And then he was like, hey girls, you're not that bad, because we have another partner that goes with us. And he was like, come on, I'll bring you back. So we have been at his conventions forever. We love him dearly. We get to do after hours events for him, which is like seance, gallery reading, energy healings. It's amazing. But he has so many good things going on. If you haven't heard of Troy Taylor, you're under a rock, because he has been in the field probably since the early 2000s.
Yes.
I mean, it's a long time ago. And he's just got a lot of respect. And I was so happy for him that he got to go on a lot of TV shows recently. Like, I'm like, thank you. Get that man out there. Like, he's one of the good ones. You know what I'm saying?
He's been doing that for years and years.
Yeah.
That mansion and all of that in St. Louis.
Yes. He has. And it's so cool. So if you get to go to that one, he just recently had his, I think it's Dead of Winter. It's like a, something he does for a lot of things, like this past weekend. A lot of, like, you bring canned goods and stuff like that. Like, he gives back to the community too. So amazing. I can't say enough about him. So we're going to be there. Then we got some other markets and stuff, but we're hoping to come out with a new book, but it's just lores and legends of the mountains up here. Just give y'all a little bit of touch of how we live our everyday. Yeah.
All right. Well, when that book's ready, let me know, because I want to talk to you about all the legendary monsters of Appalachia.
You name it, we got it. I mean, isn't that right? I mean, you probably hear all kinds of stuff down here now. You're probably just like, gosh, do y'all got a legend for everything and a monster?
Yeah. I'm working on the book for this area now. I've got several from Missouri and the Midwest, but boy.
Oh my gosh, we will have to compare stories, because I think that a lot of them are similar that we have in the South. And it's just crazy stuff and things like that, But yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, Misty, thanks for coming on. You've been really great and very helpful for me at the moment.
I hope you feel better. And Dan, thank you for letting me come on. If anybody wants to see us, like you have it running across the bottom, you can reach us at theconnersisters.com. If you want to book a reading, if you want to anything, we're here to chit chat. And you can also get us on social medias, which we try to go live occasionally, and those are kind of fun. So yeah.
Can they find where you're going to be on the website, all the different places it's going on?
We try to keep them up to date on our social media, so that will be a better place. TikTok, Facebook, all of them are the same. It's the Conner Sisters.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thanks again. And hey, stand by there for just a little bit, would you? I will talk to you after the show.
Thank you, Dan.
Take care. Wow, I can't believe how fast that hour went. That was awesome. Hey, guys, just real briefly, of course, there's so much going on in the UNX network, the Unexplained network now. And I want you to consider joining up. Get on unxnetwork.com. There's different memberships, but one of the things you get, first off, just knowing about us, you get to know shows like mine, if you wish, and all the ones we have, some from cryptids out of Australia. We've had shows of other ghost hunters, UFOs, a lot of UFO stuff. But if you join up, you get the newsletter, which comes out every few days, and more often, excuse me, if something is going on. For instance, when the Tic Tac UFO thing hit, we were on top of that. We were reporting it way before anyone else. But there's that one. You get the newsletter and the blog. The blog comes out quite often. And also, you get the magazine, which comes out every couple of months, sometimes more often, but usually every couple months. This has some of the best writers around, and even I'm allowed to put a show in every now and again. I've got 2 in this darker magazine, this several years ago. One was on the haunted North Carolina battleship. One was on Halloween legends. And this one, I had a particular thing about dolls, haunted dolls specifically. And guys, you all know how much I hate dolls. Just they're creepy. This one had a big story on the last call at the Devil's Diner, which was a really, really haunted restaurant on Route 66. I was on the very first investigation there. It had been around since the 30s. And I was on the first and third investigations there. It was really amazing. So there's a lot going on the UNX network. We just need you to join up and keep up with us. Again, so many new shows. You'll have to get on there to see them because I can't remember them all. Thanks again to Misty. She has been just an outstanding guest. I was really impressed. I'm going to go talk to her a little bit more now. But I do want you all to stay healthy. There's a lot of stuff going on. I've caught it. My wife's sick with something totally different. I've got congestion and a funny throat. She is got upchucking and a bad headache and muscle cramps. We got 2 different things here. So there's so much going on. Stay healthy, stay informed, and that's most important, all friends, is to stay spooked. Good night.